Secretary of State Antony Blinken held a private meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu today. The prime minister is reportedly not optimistic about a deal. Julie Stahl has a story from Jerusalem.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in the Middle East for the 9th time since the start of the war in Gaza, as ceasefire talks with Hamas seem to be faltering.
This is a decisive moment, probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire, and to put everyone on a better path to enduring peace and security.
Blinken met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog, who pointed out Israel is fighting on multiple fronts, including terrorism, in the last 24 hours. A 38-year-old Israeli civilian security guard, a father of 3, was killed by a Palestinian he worked with in Judea and Samaria. And there was apparently another planned attack.
Last night, we've witnessed a suspected major terror attack in Tel Aviv, which is under investigation, with a possible suicide bomber. And this morning, soldiers have been attacked in Ya'ara. Ya'ara is on the border with Lebanon by Hezbollah terrorists with drones.
Hezbollah continues to launch near-daily aerial attacks on northern Israel, with some 55 rockets fired on Saturday alone. And an IDF drone attack in the West Bank city of Jenin killed 2 senior Hamas operatives this weekend. In another incident, top Hamas official Osama Hamdan walked out of a CNN interview when he was asked if Hamas accepts any responsibility for all the Palestinian deaths it's caused by using them as human shields. And on the problems with the ceasefire talks, Hamas is blaming Netanyahu, writing, "We place full responsibility on Netanyahu for the failure of the mediators' efforts and the failure to reach a deal." Netanyahu says Israel is conducting very complex negotiations with a murderous, uninhibited, and recalcitrant terrorist organization.
I would like to emphasize, up until now, Hamas has been completely obstinate. It did not even send a representative to the talks in Doha. Therefore, the pressure needs to be directed at Hamas and Sinwar, not the government of Israel.
If the talks to end the Gaza war fail, it may mean Iran and its proxies would launch major attacks on Israel. The New York Times reporting the Iranian government delayed strikes on Israel to give time for the ceasefire talks to succeed. Israeli forces say they're ready for such attacks.
Israel is not in the best neighborhood. We have been preparing for an attack and we are ready for anything. There are diplomatic attempts to de-escalate the situation, but we are ready for everything and anything on any front.
Israel believes Hezbollah could use failed talks as an excuse to launch rocket barrages at Tel Aviv, the Jewish nation's largest city. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
I hope you pay attention to that interview that Osama Hamdan did on CNN. I applaud the CNN anchor for trying to hold him to facts and hold him to his own experience. The anchor was quite experienced and quite knowledgeable about the situation. But will our State Department wake up to the ideology that Osama Hamdan was clearly putting out on CNN, that none of it was their fault, that all of this is the fault of the occupiers? And no acknowledgement of the IDF in Israel withdrawing from Gaza, turning it over to the Gazans, having free elections. All of that under the Bush administration. The Bush administration believed that if democracy came to Gaza, they would elect peace. They would want to live at peace with Israel. They didn't. They elected Hamas to lead them. They elected a terror group spawned by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And you look at their charter, and it's absolutely horrific what they want to do. You look at their charter and what they view as the role for women. It is absolutely incredible that anyone on the left in Europe or the United States would say, we're behind Hamas. We want to protest what Israel is doing. Absolutely, truth has been turned upside down. I hope our leadership, and I pray our leadership, wakes up to this ideology and says, we can't negotiate with you. There's no point in it. if you continue to say Israel is completely at fault, Israel needs to be wiped off the map, every Jew in Israel needs to be killed, if that is truly what you believe, then it's time for you to end. That's what I hope our foreign policy is going to be going forward. Stop the charade of we think diplomacy, we haven't given up on diplomacy. Realize that when they're talking, they really believe that. They are holding on to it. And when you look at the history, any Palestinian leader that comes to peace with Israel, and actually any Arab leader, so Anwar Sadat, he came to peace with Israel. He was assassinated. The king of Jordan, when he made peace with Israel in 1948, he was assassinated on the Temple Mount right in front of his own son. They do it publicly, they do it repeatedly. Let's recognize the ideology for what it is. Let's stand against it because we believe in democracy. We believe in freedom. We believe that Israel is the best source of freedom for the Middle East. It's not an apartheid state. Muslims get to sit in the Knesset. There are minority groups that are protected. You look at the Christian population in Israel, it's the only place in the Middle East where the Christian population is growing. That's a government we need to get behind and stand behind. So today, let's pray for Israel. Her need is dire, and she needs to know that she has friends in the world.